We'll call the Common Council meeting for December the 1st to order. We'll do invocation and pledge, please. Mr. Campbell.
Gracious God, we thank you for this day. We thank you, God, how you continue to bless us and keep us. God, we thank you for giving us another day we have not seen. Lord, we thank you for blessing us to get through this Thanksgiving season. We want to always look around and not only be thankful for what we have, but be thankful for our community, thankful for all that you bless this community with, and thank you for the leaders of our community that you bless us with. God, as we come here tonight to make decisions that are best, that are decisions that will affect our community, please give our council persons the wisdom and the knowledge they need to make those decisions. Give them the courage to make the decisions, and also give them the compassion that they need to be able to lead our community. Bless our mayor, bless all of our city officials, bless all the persons who work for our city, bless our first responders, be with them, and bless each and every person that's present tonight. Be with them, be with their families, bless them and keep them, give them safe travel home as they leave this place after this meeting is over with. We ask it all in the name of Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Bobby. Roll call, please.
Councilperson Smith. Present. Councilperson Zastani.
Here.
Councilperson Payne.
Here.
Councilperson Sells. Here. Vice President Gill.
Here.
President Julius.
Here.
Councilperson Owen.
Here.
Councilperson Samuel.
Here.
Let the record show that all councilpersons are in attendance except for Councilperson Brian Glover.
Thank you. Minutes to be approved. We'll do the council minutes from the regular proceeding, November 17th.
Motion to approve. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
I'll abstain. I was absent.
Minutes from the council workshop, November 7th, or 17th.
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
I'll abstain.
Okay. Approval of the agenda.
If there are no changes, motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Claims to be approved.
Requesting approval of claims, $1,135,330.54 as presented.
Amy, did you get an answer on that vehicle?
I did. Under Lowett for the fire department, they had purchased it's a used vehicle, but they had traded in 2 other vehicles, so that's the net amount, the 11,800.
Thank you for checking on that.
Motion to approve is presented.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. Report from the clerk. Nothing. All right, we'll go to unfinished business. Matt Owen, an ordinance abolishing the Jeffersonville City Court.
This is same ordinance, 2014 OR 57 that was discussed at our previous meeting. I don't believe anything's changed. I'm sure we have some public comment, though.
Well, I'd like to add, if that's okay, Mr. President.
Sure.
We were presented with some numbers last meeting by Judge Pierce, and I verified them with Amy, and they are correct. It reflected a 75% of the gross salary of the deputy clerk, so those numbers are right.
And I think the heading was wrong, wasn't it?
It was the title that was wrong.
That's what I mean.
And it's only 75%. So, Amy, thank you. You were correct.
Okay. We do have some folks that have signed up for public comment, and here's how we're going to do that. We typically allow 3 minutes. Mr. Smith, if you've got a timer, that would be great. And we would ask that you not repeat what the person in front of you or someone has said already, because it doesn't accomplish anything. So we would ask that you keep it brief, under 3 minutes, and try not to repeat repeat what other people have said. And first one up will be Mickey Weber.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Most of you know me. For those of you who don't, my name is Mickey Weber. I'm the Clarksville Town Court Judge, and I'm an attorney here in Jeffersonville. And once upon a time, when the earth was young, I represented this body. I'm here tonight to talk about the city court. Frankly, I wasn't planning on coming, and I got contacted today by a member of the press who wanted to talk about the potential for closing the city court, and I talked to that member of the press. It seems somewhat uncharitable or unfair to have public opinions about this decision and voice them in a forum where you weren't going to get to hear them until after you made this decision, so I came out tonight to tell you what they were. And my opinion is that the Jeffersonville City Court is an important resource for the community of the city of Jeffersonville and for Clark County, and that if you close it, you'll regret it. It'll place a hardship on the county, it'll place a hardship on the city and on the citizens of the city who no longer have access to an available justice system to deal with the more minor criminal element. Now I know that the volume of cases the Jeffersonville City Court has dealt with in the last couple of years is dramatically down, and the revenues are down accordingly. I would suggest to you that the Jeffersonville City Court's a public service like the garbage or the fire department, and it's not a private enterprise to be determined on a basis of profit and loss. But if it is, or if the problem is that the volume is insufficient to justify the Jeffersonville City Court, I thought I could speak to the fact that the Clarksville Town Court's business, to use the word in a business-like way, has increased by about 50% this year. We're going to do 1,700 misdemeanors in the Clarksville Town Court probably before the year's over. The number of misdemeanors being filed in the Clark County Circuit Court number 3 is up. It's one of the busiest courts in the state. And if you close the city court down, most likely the misdemeanors that are processed here are going to be dealt with there, and it's going to contribute to the congestion of the court's calendar. Now, if the volume has to be increased to make it a good idea to keep the Jeffersonville City Court open, that could be done. I talked to gentlemen from the press about why the volume is so far down, and I honestly don't know. There's no one theory that makes any sense that could explain it all by itself. But there are all kinds of solutions that don't involve closing the city court down. The judges could get together with members of the council and the county council and the prosecutor's office and the law enforcement agencies, and we could redistribute the cases, and we could do it without even changing the case allocation plan, since the case allocation plan for the county is basically advisory and there are no consequences for deviating from it. And I think that if the council were determined upon that course of action, it would be successful, and it'd be successful in a fairly immediate way. You've got a perfectly good month to sit down with the other judges in the county and with the sheriff and with the jailers and with the police departments and reinvigorate the volume of the Jeffersonville City Court if that's what needs to be done to keep it open, and I urge you to do it. That's all. I've tried to be brief. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Please refrain from clapping, if you would, till we're finished. Connie Munich.
Hi. Will someone show me how to turn this on again? I'm Connie Minnick, and I'm the Executive Director of the Clark County Youth Coalition, and we are designated by the state of Indiana as the local coordinating council for the Governor's Commission for a Drug-Free Indiana. And last time I was here and I presented about the allocations, how we collect, and that money is redistributed back into the community. And I just wanted to call your attention to a couple things. One is Scott Lewis is correct in saying that if this court no longer exists, that money should be collected in the other courts. However, I am as well correct, and I have the data that shows for the last 5 years, when we lost the Sellersburg court as well as the Charlestown court, we did not ever reclaim that 20-something thousand after they were abolished. So I'm here to just reiterate the fact that if you look at the clerk's charges are all the circuit courts 1 through 4 that's collected, and then Jeffersonville City Court is at the top. If you flip over your spreadsheet, one of the things that I did from the last meeting is you guys had a spreadsheet about how many cases per court, and you were talking about percentages. When I said the percentages were different, I don't mean that the law is different by court, I meant that Jeff City Court collects the most per case. And that's what I did. I did an allocation. If you look at the Jeff City Court collections, per caseload, they average $102.60. If you look at the other courts, circuit courts 1 through 4, their collections for the Drug Free Community Fund is approximately $10.27. Because my primary purpose is to advocate for funding for the programs and services in our community. Last year, the other, and this is from last meeting, the 7-page shows how we allocate and distribute those funds. We distributed $130,000 last year through 41 programs. 29 of those programs were Jeffersonville-based. And so approximately $89,000 of the 130 went back to Jeffersonville-specific programs. So I just want to make sure that we all have the same information, that I am the person that's supposed to track the data and the Drug Free Community Fund and show how those allocations are redistributed back into the community. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Next, we have Ron Smith.
That's who I am, 3310 Holman Lane, Jeffersonville. I wish it wasn't necessary to be here. I wish that some of you people had sat in on some circuit court trials. I wish you had been there to observe a lot of these people that go in there. They're not very educated. They're not very smart. They have not had opportunities. They don't have a job. They can't get a job. Once you get a felony, you're never going to get a job. So anyway, I sat in on our judge's trial, our deal this morning with the prisoners and the Hispanics. And I don't think there's very many of you all that's ever sat in on one of these deals, because you all are getting ready to abolish a court system that takes 4 to 6 weeks to settle these cases. You're going to send it over to a circuit court that takes 4 to 6 months. You're going to make a bunch of lawyers, high-priced lawyers, have more money than they've already got. The poor, disadvantaged, are not going to get a speedy trial. They're going to get backlogged. Judge Weber cannot handle 963 more cases. There was 1,500 cases going into that court 3 or 4 years ago. Now there's 537, I believe. So anyway, what are you all thinking? Are you going to put these people in a jail that we don't have room for? Are you going to take an overloaded judge with people that can't hardly handle what he's got now? He'll tell you he'll take more, but how much can a man do? How many people can stand in front of that man in a year and get justice? You all are going to backlog this thing to where they're going to be screaming for a new jail. That's millions of dollars, many millions. And this makes no sense what you all are going to do. You're trying to save money, and you're not going to save money. You're going to need a new jail. You're going to need a new court system, bigger, more courts. Those, I've been told very reliably, $1 million plus to establish another court a year. Now, that makes 400 and some thousand, Mr. Owens, look pretty petty. Not to mention the fact, I doubt if you've ever sat in on one of Judge Pierce's things like I did this morning. I've sat in Weber's several mornings. You all are trying to fix it to where you're going to allow some rich lawyers make a lot of money.
Ron,
they're rigging the system.
you need to face
I
them
can't hear.
so we can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you.
The system is being rigged, and you all are falling for it, and this is not going to save anybody any money. Now, when Mike Moore and Tom Galligan get together and they're hugging on this same issue, baby, you all ought to be looking out, because, I mean, these are not fools, and I think you all have been hoodwinked, to put it mildly. And I am ashamed of some of you, absolutely ashamed of what you're going to do to the poor people that are disadvantaged. Now, if I have repeated anything that anybody else says, probably it needed to be repeated because you all are not capable of understanding it.
Thank you. Susan Pop.
Hello, I'm Susan Popp, and I'm here as a member of the Clark County Council. And I was reading about this in the paper and felt urged to come here and just basically say, I feel like that the Clark County Council would be prudent for them to sit down with the City Council, because we're talking about shifting the caseload from the city to the county, and I don't know that that's all been thought through. And I just think there again, it would just be prudent to have both bodies or representatives from both bodies to sit down to look at the implications and just to make sure that this is exactly what needs to be done for the citizens of Clark County and the citizens of Jeffersonville. I think we need to take a big picture view of it versus just saying this is what's better for the city of Jeffersonville at this point in time. I think we just maybe need to step back and look at it. I'm not saying, I don't have a spreadsheet, I haven't looked at the numbers, you know, so the only thing I'm saying is from a communication standpoint, I think it would be important for both bodies to sit down to look at how that's going to affect the courthouse, the courts, and that just want to make sure that I've got on record that I think it definitely needs to be discussed more, so all the different things that have been said tonight can be looked at, and I think that both bodies need to get together and speak. So thank you for the opportunity to come and speak with you. I appreciate your time.
Thanks. Mr. Judge Ken Pierce.
Good evening, members of the council. Thanks for having me. And before I get started, what do I hit to make the overhead work? So I'm sorry. While you do that, I'm going to go ahead and hand some things out.
It's the same.
This is what she sent us today.
All right.
It's the same as what we had last week.
Yeah.
The last week.
Looking awful dapper tonight, Judge.
Well, I had
What are these, Judge?
These, I'm going to tell you, I realized that I don't get heard or recorded when I stand up here at the gathering. So, there you go. Okay. Now, first of all, I want to be sure and thank all the supporters that have come out here to support the court. I appreciate it more than any of you all know. And I want to start and see if there's any questions about anything I presented 2 weeks ago. Okay. Now, I previously asked if there was a budget number that the council or any member of the council thought was reasonable. And I'm opening to any suggestions now for that. Okay. Now, there's already been some mention on the tax consequences here. I have no reason to believe that Jeff City taxes are going to go down if we close this court, or if you elect to close the court, okay? However, I've heard talk that we want a new court in the county. That would create an option for some tax levy issues, I'm sure, and so county taxes may go up. Jeffersonville is part of the county as well, so taxes will go up as a result of this, okay? I feel it incumbent upon me to make sure I say this because I was elected, as you were, to represent the taxpayers and the people in the city of Jeffersonville. So I would be remiss to not mention that. Now, what you have before you, the top page, is the sheet I was originally given with the one modification that Ms. Deering and I discussed, where the court clerk accountant individual here, make sure I put that on there. This one right here, it was changed to chief deputy. So, Ms. Gill will agree, I think we were all right. The clerk court accountant is no longer there, but it was changed, and now there's a new position that's been created down below it to read chief deputy. Okay? So, that position, I'm told, is 75% of the chief deputy's salary. Okay? Now, I'm going to operate on the assumption that that number was picked from thin air or from Ms. Conlon or from someone else, because I was not contacted regarding how much work the chief deputy does for the court. Okay? So I would suggest that that number be taken off the assessment against the court. I also don't understand how we can have two more court employees or clerk employees here, the court clerk and the traffic clerk, occupying budget space for a court that we will all agree is low on cases. From my end, we have a probation officer up here, chief probation officer up here, and a bailiff. Okay? I would agree that I'm not putting as many people on probation. So I think I probably need to sit there and sacrifice a probation officer as well. My proposal would be that all that occurs. That's on the second page here. Okay? That saves approximately $133,000. Now, if the court numbers go back up like I think they should, I would propose that we keep an open mind and potentially increase employee numbers again. This certainly, if the court was doing 1,500 cases with this number of employees, we're now doing 500, 600, 700, 800 cases, I would agree that an employee cut is reasonable. Okay? That's my proposal. Now, in addition to that number, which was about $272,000, we also need to add in here what Ms. Minnick mentioned, is that this court, is the 2013, that's the last number we have, was contributing almost $90,000 a year to local organizations. Let's just call them good organizations. Public Library, the DARE program, Bliss House, treatment programs, and so forth, okay? These are, like I said last time, institutions, organizations, groups that will want money from the city council, the county council, or someone else to continue their good cause. This money is offset by the Jeff City Court's collections. As Ms. Minnick demonstrated, these numbers are much higher than by any other court. Even the last full year, obviously, Sellersburg Town Court and Charlestown City Court, their last year in existence, their numbers were diminishing because their case numbers were diminishing as well. But their last full year of operation, they received $20,000 and $9,000 combined. Nowhere here can you see an increase for the county clerk of $29,000. These funds are not being collected in the county. Okay? I can't explain it. I don't have to explain it. I know they're getting collected here and they're going to a good cause. When you combine that, that puts the overall cost of city court well under $200,000, which I think is well below 1% of the overall city budget. Okay? I think that's a small price to pay to have a judge that lives in this community, that's accessible to police officers. As a matter of fact, you can contact Officer Lawhorn. Okay? I signed a search warrant right before I walked in here. I was back in Chambers and I signed a search warrant for him tonight. Okay? So this is a service. This is the intent of the city court, to be available, to be local. Okay? It's for public safety, and I don't think we can put a price on that. Now, once again, I was not contacted by anyone regarding these numbers, except I have spoken with Mr. Julius, Mr. Samuel, and Mr. Sasavani on the issue. Okay, Mr. Glover's not here. I've spoken with him as well. Mr. Owen, I made the offer on Saturday to speak with you about this. I gave you my phone number and everything. You said you give me a call. I've not heard from you. I would have liked to have thought that we would have had a chance to discuss these, since you're the one proposing this. Since your name is on this ordinance, whether you're the one actually proposing it or not, since your name's on it, as you indicated, then I would have liked to have had a chance to talk to you about this. Now, as mentioned, there is no shortage of cases in Clark County. There are alleged missing cases and questionable record keeping that are going on, from what I'm told. This here is a printout of cases that were alleged to be missing. Okay, now, I've done some research on this. We have Mike Lilly Jr. on this case here. There's the case number right there, and there is the electronic chronological case summary. Okay? That electronic file is not missing. Here's another case with Mr. Frazier here down at 806. There it is right there. There's another case I found. Now, I've not printed off all of them because I need these to prove to everyone that calls me and says, hey, you've lost cases. No, I've not. I've done the research on these. I've looked them up, and I'm satisfied that the majority of the cases can be found. There are approximately 18, 19 misdemeanor cases in question. The 1100 case number that I was told, I'd never heard of that until last week. I question why I wasn't told about it. I find it odd. But I have no doubt that if given the files and the names of the individuals, I can probably recover, my staff can probably recover the majority of those files. Okay? So it all boils down to we're using numbers that were given to everyone on a case here, on missing cases here that I don't think are missing. Okay? So I have to question these numbers. If these numbers are going to be used to close down the court and cost these taxpayers all these dollars, I have no choice but to question these numbers. I feel, once again, it's incumbent upon me to discuss this and to work for the taxpayers that elected me to this office. So, once again, I was told that 75% of one of the clerk's office employees' time is spent on the city court. I find it hard to believe that it takes 2 3/4 employees to handle this diminishing caseload. So I started looking into some numbers. What you have here is a class schedule listing in Ivy Tech. Okay? The chief deputy clerk taught a class at Ivy Tech this spring in the mornings. Okay? I then was provided this information by an undisclosed source and looked at the timesheets. There are several times on here when this individual did not clock out. Now, it's impossible for someone to be in 2 places at one time. So clearly there's an error in record keeping. There's no wrongdoing, I'm sure, occurred here. So clearly there's been an error in some record keeping here. If there's an error in record keeping on these missing files, if there's an error in record keeping on the timesheets, and we're using a round number of 75% of this individual's time is now going to be assessed against the court, I think it calls into question all the numbers coming out of that office. We must remember, I don't want to discuss this too terribly much, but we must remember that this is an individual that sued me. Okay? Now, it's the elephant in the room, so let's talk about it. That's what happened. And if these numbers are being used, and we have a round 75% number being thrown at me, and I have numbers here to suggest that maybe the numbers aren't being kept totally perfectly, and maybe there are mistakes were made, then I think we need to look into it. Just because we prick our finger, there's no reason to amputate the entire arm here. There's been several people come before you today and this evening and say there's several ways to address this issue. There's several ways to remedy this problem. Yet no one has sat down and tried to do this. I see no reason why we need to rush to this. I was told 2 weeks ago that the council's been looking at this for 2 full years. 2 years ago, the court was running perfectly. I had a meeting with every one of you up in the mayor's meeting room. Showed everyone all the numbers. And then within 4 or 5 months, it all starts deteriorating. There's no way that a court has a history of 1,500 cases for 10 straight years, and the bottom falls out from under it. Something's happened. All I'm asking the council for is the opportunity to fix it. I'm not pointing fingers. There's no reason why we can't try and sit down and work this out. For what I've shown to be less than $200,000, and that's a conservative estimate, less than 1% of the overall city budget. This is an entire branch of government. We're a second-class city. We have more police officers than the entire rest of the county combined. We have a thriving downtown. We ask people from all over to come downtown and spend your money here. Okay? We, as the city, make money off that downtown. We make money off all these establishments we have. Okay? People come down there. People steal things. People have too much alcohol sometimes. Okay? Jeff City is bringing these problems in. Okay? Jeff City is profiting from these problems. And we want to pass the cost off to someone in Borden. We want to pass the cost off to someone in Charlestown. It doesn't make sense. I think we need to take responsibility. We've got no problem taking the profits from it. Sometimes we need to take responsibility for some of the negative sides that come out of it as well. Does anybody have any questions?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
You brought up several times about missing case files.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't remember anybody here in the council. I thought you were the one that brought that up, and you put the information in front of us last meeting.
I certainly did. No, those aren't missing case files there. That right there is, that was last time how there were 7 different court dates when the people were booked into Jeff City Court. Okay? And they weren't, the cases weren't filed in Jeff City Court.
What I was trying to clarify to you, Judge, is
Right.
none of us up here brought that up.
No, I understand. It's been in the media lately. I want to make sure, I'm sure we've all, actually, Mr. Owen has been on TV regarding that, and he indicated to the public over the media that this is it's become an inefficient and ineffective court. So certainly I need to address that, because if it's being discussed by the council in public, I have a right to defend the court on that issue.
There was never a comment on missing cases. When I was contacted regarding that, I gave no comment because I don't know about anything about missing cases. Now, there was comment about the inefficiency in the court, and that's displayed by the numbers that are evident the budget numbers.
It was mentioned in an interview with, I believe it was WHAS. My portion of the interview was conducted right back there at that back table. Your portion was, I believe, up in your office. And the headline on the TV that my parents and everyone that got to call me that night read said 1,100 missing cases. So maybe you were referring just to the ineffective and inefficient running of the court, or the numbers of the files, or the missing files, or whatever, but the subject of the news media story was missing cases. So I felt it incumbent upon me once again to make sure the council understood that I never knew about the 1,100 missing cases. That was completely an issue that blindsided me, and I've been working on it, and I feel confident that if I could get some of the case names and so forth, that I would be able to address that as well. So if you were misquoted, sir, I apologize, but it was certainly on the TV that way, and that's one of the reasons why I approached you on Saturday to say I'd love to talk to you about this issue.
Right.
Judge, I have a couple.
Yes, sir.
One was, you've referred to a couple of times that we insinuated that taxes would go down. And I've never heard that before.
I just said they wouldn't go down. I didn't say you insinuated that. I know this is a fiscal issue, and tax and money saving is an issue here.
Right.
So I just want to be clear that the council may save money in one place, but our constituents will likely feel the cost on a countywide level if a new court or two new courts are opened up, because that will obviously increase the levy.
Well, I've heard that twice in the conversation, and I just wanted to reiterate that I don't think that has ever been in this discussion, that taxes would go down. The only other thing that I wanted to mention is you and I had a meeting a week ago Sunday,
Yes, sir.
yesterday, and I had asked you you were talking about, I believe it was this plan that you brought in today, that you were going to get some numbers showing a lesser number of employees in the court and show how you could save some money.
Yes, sir.
Which you did today. And I asked you a week ago Sunday, would you please get me that info so that, real plain simple, that I could get it out to the other council members, and I got it tonight. And that's the kind of thing that we can't digest, that quick. And that's why I was asking you to get us something a little quicker, just between the conversation that we had.
I understand that, sir. And like I spoke with Ms. Deering on Wednesday. I received the numbers on Wednesday. I let everyone have their Thanksgiving holiday. I'm sure the last thing anyone would do on Thanksgiving or the day after was deal with me. So, and yesterday, I called you yesterday early evening to discuss it with you. I was going to try and get it to you. I didn't hear from you until this morning, sir. So I apologize, but I certainly had every intention on getting it to you this morning or last night. And I called, and you, like you said, I believe you were taking your daughter to college, and you were working, and you had a long Sunday. So I spoke with you this morning on the issue, and
I called you back.
Yes, sir. No, I'm not making any allegations about that. You and I have had substantial contact on the issue.
Sure. Go ahead.
So, like I said, I did want to present this to everybody here, and I apologize if it's late, but it's very straightforward. If 3 employees are removed from the assessment against the court, that certainly is a substantial amount of cost savings. And like I asked 2 weeks ago, if there was a goal number that I could try and reach to save this court for the community and for the employees and everyone else, then I was willing to try and do that. Instead, I was not given a number by anyone, so I'm kind of trying to chase a moving target here. I've done the very best I can. I think there's some more numbers that can be reduced. I don't think that some of the fees and budgeted items in there are necessarily everything I need. I've looked backwards, and I think almost every year since I've been judge, I've spent under my budget, with the exception of maybe last year. So I don't know that that this is necessarily anything underhanded. I just, like I said, I tried to contact you last night on the issue, and we could not catch up with it. These numbers are straightforward. I'm losing 3 employees. I pulled the health insurance costs off of those employees as well, for approximately $133,000.
Has anybody got any other questions?
I was just going to make a quick comment that, Judge, you didn't hear from me because Mr. Julius is president of the council, and he put a committee, because there can only be 4, and they chose the 4. I wasn't part of that, so we regularly do that in situations, so I didn't mean any disrespect for not contacting you. If I needed something that I didn't get from them or from the controller, I definitely would have contacted you, but I don't want you to think otherwise, that when the president of the council puts together a list of the council people and they meet with you, then I respect that. So I just wanted you to know why you have not heard from me.
Okay, well, like I said, guys, I thank you. And with this many numbers in question, I don't see, and it's being based on an office that is not under my control or governance or anything else. So I would respectfully request that we try and address this issue and look into it a little more deeply, because, like I said, the person can't be in the same place 2 times. So there's obviously an error made on some of those issues. There's seven days on here that I counted when the individual in question was working during the classroom time. So maybe there were snow days, maybe it was spring break, maybe it was an error in the system or record keeping, I don't know, but it's impossible for that to happen. So if that's a question of a mistake in some numbers, I don't know why we can't look at these numbers a little more closely.
Well, Judge, the council, we don't have control over any of the employees. That's something that the city clerk is technically her department head, so that's something that needs to be taken up with her. I will ask her that question, but as far as the council, that's not a matter for us. That'd be like me coming to somebody else on one of your employees. So
I understand that, but when someone else's employees could necessarily affect the court.
When they don't, is what I'm just trying to.
I understand. Like I said, I mean, when it's being used against the court, and I'm the head of the court, I have to make a statement about it.
I didn't realize we were using that against the court.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
A comment was made that more people would go to jail and the jails would fill up faster with the loss of city court. Is there any truth to that at all?
It's speculation, obviously, but the idea is there's only so many cases that one judge can hear in one day. Okay, and there's only so many cases one prosecutor, pretrial conferences, one prosecutor can have in one day. So at some point, you reach mass where you can't do anything else. And then even if it's just 2 cases a day that somehow we can't get to, or a judge can't get to, or the prosecutor can't get to, that rolls over the next day. The next day it's 4, 6, and you get my point that eventually there is a backlog. Yeah, the city court could probably handle, I don't know how many thousands of cases, but by the time I got around to all of them, there would be a greater delay. And that was the point that was being made. Some of these people, especially in the county courts, some of the defendants are necessarily held in jail. Obviously, there's felonies involved that are mixed into these courts. So those felony offenders are held in. Their dates are set back because certain dates are held by misdemeanor cases. Those dates get set back further. They're in jail longer. They cost taxpayers more money. These are the hidden costs. Another court would require probably another prosecutor. More jail time, more space. I believe the county, I think the county pays rent to the building authority for court space. The rent would go up. And once again, I am not a financial analyst or anything. This is just me thinking out loud. I'm sure there's 1,000 other costs I've not even thought about. And I don't know if you guys have or not. I don't suspect you haven't, but certainly that's something that causes concern for me. If another court opens up, taxes will go up for the county residents, which about 40% of the county is the city of Jeffersonville. So I don't think this represents any cost savings for anyone, really. Maybe the money saved by the council may be put in other programs, but in an almost $30 million budget, I don't know necessarily that $170,000, $180,000 is something that we need to sit there and really, really grind out here when there are services being provided. I don't know of any department in the city that makes money. Okay? So if no one else is making money and there's a service, a valuable, and tangible service being provided to the community, I don't see any reason why we don't explore that. I know that I have programs for several people and several schools in the city that, you're right, a judge doesn't have to do. Why not take advantage of it if we're doing it? Without a full-time judge can't do that. They have to do their full-time job. My law partners aren't necessarily for this because they lose money when I'm out taking middle school kids to lunch or giving speeches to high schools or elementary schools. But it's a service that I think the city court judge needs to do and provide.
I have another question.
Yes, sir.
I'm just trying to think. I know in Sellersburg and Charlestown, they closed their city court.
Yes, sir.
And the city council can close the court, and they can also establish the city court. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, they closed it, and they haven't. I mean, it doesn't seem like they've had consequences to the point where they feel like they need to reestablish the city courts. And when they close their courts, the expense was shared countywide for what they've done. I see us kind of doing the same thing where it's a countywide expense.
Okay.
And it'd be shared countywide. Now, I agree with you that, so the costs shift to the county and that the city is 40% of the county, so we'd pay 40% of that extra expense. But I mean, there must not have been bad consequences to the loss of the city courts, or they'd been reestablished, or am I missing something?
With all due respect, you know how I'm going to answer. Yes, there's a part that's being missed here, and I just put this on the overhead here. It shows here that in 2010, Charlestown City Court had 315 cases, and Sellersburg Town Court had 147. Okay, Sellersburg didn't have any in 2011, and Charleston City had 21. If you look at the history of these courts, combined, they didn't even reach the number of cases that I'm going to have this year, even at my reduced amount. And these cases were absorbed primarily by Circuit Court number 3. Some of them went to other courts where maybe a defendant has a felony and they pick up a misdemeanor and it gets put in that court as well. The county did absorb those. The issue here is the volume. Clarksville Town Court and Jeff City Court typically carried about 1,400 to 1,500 cases a year. Okay? And if you look at the numbers here of what Circuit Court number 3 was handling just for misdemeanors, you'll see, back in 2010, only had 1,000 of those. Of course, they had a lot of felonies on there, which I would submit the felonies are the important ones. They're the ones that I'm more than happy to let the county courts handle. Okay? Here, you have the Circuit Court. Only in 2012 did it reach the numbers that Jeff City Court and Clarksville Town Court usually reach. All right? And if you look at those numbers, that tells a lot. Because essentially what that court's having to do is undertake another court its own size, rather than picking up a couple hundred cases here and there. Does that make sense? I don't even know how I answered the question, but
It's size and scale.
exactly. When you're closing a court of this size, I mean, we're a big city. We got a lot of arrests. We got a lot of road construction going on. A lot of things happening here, and there's no reason for us to pass the burden we're creating onto the county for what I believe is a nominal cost. Now, I don't have the money in my back pocket right now at all, but certainly for less than 1% of the city overall budget, I think it's something that needs to be addressed.
Somewhere.
Has anybody got any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. I appreciate your consideration.
I think we need to take, you want to take a roll call vote?
Well, we need to do a motion.
We do need a motion.
Yeah.
Motion to, where'd it go?
2014 OR 57.
Motion to pass 2014 OR 57 on the third reading.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion?
I'd just like to comment. At the last meeting, I voted against closing the court based on trying to determine the value that it provides to the city and to our constituents. And there's been a lot of, I would say, conflicting information. We have people on both sides get up and show us kind of the same figures, and then they have different explanations for those and all. We were talking tonight about missing cases, and that, to me, that didn't come into my decision at all. We were talking about employees working going to Ivy Tech. That has, in my mind, that has nothing to do with whether we close or keep the court open. And one of the statements at the last meeting that was brought up, that was made, that kind of bothered me, was it said that a bunch of the cases will be dismissed due to clogging up of the courts. And the emphasis was, or what was being suggested, is that the felony cases would be dismissed because misdemeanors would be being heard. So I contacted the prosecutor's office, and they said that's absolutely not accurate. they said that in fact the law requires that the other cases be heard before the misdemeanors.
Right.
I'm not an attorney. I don't know. I have no idea. But I accept that from the prosecutor's office. And after the last meeting, I did talk to the county level judges. I talked to the prosecutor's office. I talked to our local police chief and even others, even some state legislators. And I was trying to identify the harm that it would cause by closing the court, because it's concerning to me, because I don't want to do something that would harm Jeffersonville. It was really interesting, though. Every one of those people that I talked to, they all indicated to me that closing the court would not cause a problem. And I found that unusual, quite frankly. I know that over the past few years there's been an effort to close the court for quite some time. It's been talked about, and I've been one that's pushed against it. And I even question the motivations of some of those that were suggesting that we close it. But after doing a lot of soul searching in the last 2 weeks and trying to determine what the value is to Jeffersonville, and hearing the folks that are directly involved with using the court and who it would affect the most, I've come to the realization that based on the facts that we were given on case numbers and the costs, that when I look at the value of that versus what the typical citizen of Jeff is getting for that, I don't see it. And frankly, I hate to say that, because that's not where I was. So I will not, tonight, I will vote for closing the court based on the value and based on those discussions that I had last time. So I just felt like I needed to tell you guys.
And Nathan, to add to that, because when I saw on the news, and I saw a text that went out where I'm being accused, when I say me, I can only speak for myself, when it says the council members are making this decision based on a political act, I thought, okay, all these numbers have nothing to do with politics. All the conversations that I've had, like you have, at the state level, at the city level, at the county level, I can't dispute the numbers. So I called my constituents. I had meetings with several of my constituents, and I put the numbers in front of them. I said, get back to me. And not one of them said, you're not jeopardizing public safety. They didn't say, you're doing this because it's political. They looked at the numbers, and they had the same questions, concerns that I have. So I stand by my support in closing this court. So I just wanted the public to know that.
And just to add, I know we've looked through a lot of numbers, but to add to that, I've reached out also to a member of the county council and just asked, what are the operating expenses for the circuit courts, each of the circuit courts? And it was explained to me that the circuit courts are not budgeted individually as individual entities, but they're budgeted together, all 4 courts. And that budget is around $1.7 million, which would be an average of $425,000, which would be less than what our city court is operating on. And I think that speaks to my comments of inefficient, and inefficient use of the court.
And also, Nathan, you had said that it's been talked about before, so I did a little research, went back through some past minutes. I did find some minutes from a council meeting dated December 4th, 2006, and I have them in front of me if anybody wants to look at them, and I highlighted where it says, Councilperson Perkins said Mayor Ways has an idea to abolish city court. Councilperson Perkins feels this would be a burden on the county and be disastrous, but then the Superior Court judge will work with the city court to move pretrial hearings to the county building. I mean, it goes into a long discussion, but this was back in 2006, so you all know that I did do that due diligence too. Anybody wants to see that?
Any other discussion? Let's do a roll call vote.
Read the motion again, please.
The motion was to approve the ordinance on the final reading.
2014 OR 57.
57, I'm sorry, 57.
Councilperson Smith,
Yes.
Councilperson Zastani,
Yes.
Councilperson Payne,
Yes.
Councilperson Sellers.
Yes.
Vice President Gill,
Yes.
President Julius,
Yes.
Councilperson Miller,
Yes.
Councilperson Samuel.
Yes.
Unanimous, 8 votes to close.
Okay, let's keep moving. Amy Deering, public hearing on 2014 OR 59, an ordinance of additional appropriation.
Yeah, we will need to open a public hearing on this. No changes since the last meeting.
We'll open a public hearing. Is anybody here to speak for or against this matter? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
Lost my agenda.
Motion to approve 2014 OR 59 on the third and final reading.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Thank you.
All right, new business. We have Michael Caphammer from Floyd Clark County Tourism Bureau.
Members of council, thank you for having me this evening. My name is Mike Caphammer, and I stand before you this evening as a representative of the Floyd County Tourism Bureau. And I have a proposal for you, a marketing proposal. As we all know, the last 3, 4, 5 months have been congested, to say the least, for our community. Particularly, Jeff and I guess the I-65 corridor. While not purely a tourism issue, I took before the Tourism Bureau a month or so ago, and they agree that while not a tourism issue specifically, is a hospitality issue, and that our community could use somewhat of a boost that we're inclined to participate in to help mitigate, if you will, in a positive way, the effects of, for lack of a better, the big squeeze. It's kind of caught on in social media and TV and other spots, but I think, as we all know, other than, or at least I think we would know, other than rush hours, both morning and evening, it's not that difficult to get to Jeffersonville or to Clarksville. So what our proposal is, and we unanimously decided on this a week or so ago, that we would like to do a marketing campaign, and we've got the resources to do that. We have 3 marketing people on staff. We'd like to put a campaign together, and we will put $30,000 into that campaign, already done. I'm asking you guys for $30,000. I'm going to ask Clarksville in 2 weeks for the same number, for a 1-year campaign to, as I say, help soften the negative image on our community that we can't get here. That's essentially, it would be, it's essentially it in a capsule. I would tell you that it would be, we've got ideas. We've got great marketing folks, very capable, at no cost to anyone, to put the campaign together. So, for that, that's my proposal to you guys.
Mike, do you think UEZ would bite into this with us?
They're in the UEZ. It's a business in the UEZ. I would think they would.
My initial impression when I talked to Mike, or my initial idea, was to go to the council, UEZ, and redevelopment to share 10 apiece.
To me, I think it's very doable, and I think it's appropriate.
I think it's appropriate, with everything going on throughout the city and the construction.
You know what I was going to ask, but it is because of the big squeeze, which I think this bridge construction, I think we found there's a lot of hitting issues we didn't know about, the dirt and the dust, and we got street sweepers. So we got a lot going on, but could we recoup any of this money? I mean, go ahead and get the process started, but we should be able to get a hold of our senator or somebody through our state legislation and recoup some of this money, because this is something that was handed to us, and there's going to be a lot of challenges, and this is one of them. And this really shouldn't cost the taxpayer.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's something I think at some point we should ask. I don't have an avenue to do it, but I think we should ask.
Certainly, it could fit under edit.
Yeah.
We have some economic development dollars. I'm kind of looking at Amy. If we would commit 10 of the 30, if Dennis is talking about UEZ and maybe redevelopment,
Is there money left over, like council special projects
Should be.
or promotions?
This sort of reminds me of the proposal that we had to have a campaign to advertise that the bridges were open, or the Sherman Minton Bridge was open. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was, I guess, a couple of years ago. I voted against that because I thought, well, people know that the bridge is open when it's open. And people know that there are businesses over here, whether there's traffic or not. So what exactly will the campaign's going to stress, that traffic isn't so bad between some hours?
I would tell you that, well, I'm not the marketing guy or the trio of marketing folks. You don't want to ever address a negative, so we wouldn't do that. At the same time, there is a perception. I don't think it's a reality. I think it's a perception. Yeah, there are businesses here, but for instance, in my Buckhead's business, as many of you probably know, every year for the last 15, I've had anywhere from 900 to 1,000 breast cancer survivors. And I'm putting that on. It's cost those survivors nothing. This year I had 150 people not show up, and many calls for the only reason was I didn't think I could get there. And we've seen that, and I've talked to more than a few other businesses in our community, and that is something that they are also seeing. I will also tell you that same breast cancer dinner evening, probably 30 people came up to me. I thought it was going to be terrible, but it just wasn't. And so we're fighting, Mr. Payne, a perception. And I think we need to do that in a positive way. As I say, I'm not going to go attack Big Squeeze. I'm going to hey, for lack of a better term, at least for Jeffersonville purposes, Jeff's home for business.
Construction. During construction.
Yes, sir.
Pardon our mess, sort of thing.
Are you on the marketing team?
No.
It's more than a mess.
It's more than a mess.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve $10,000 of the 30 to go towards this campaign.
We would have to do an additional, right?
Do we have time for that? I didn't think so.
We have 42,000 remaining in special projects.
Take it from that. Okay.
Mike, when is the plan on, when it's all lined up to actually get this started?
Well, Mike, I would say the sooner the better.
The reason I asked was the UEZ and redevelopment I don't have a problem with, but I don't want to drag this on for all of December for all these other boards to get on board. I think they will get on board, but we have the money. I would rather do it and have the money there so they can start on it immediately, and then we can, if we have to tweak on some things later. But I don't. If we're going to do it, I don't want to drag it out all of December. But that's just my.
Are you saying to ask for the 30? Mm-hmm. So you would change your motion if that's the case?
I will withdraw my motion.
Well, I'm just saying, if you want to go UEZ and redevelopment, I'm fine with it, but I want to get the ball rolling. And I think if you talk to the businesses downtown, I think throughout there is. It's not a perception. I disagree. It's a reality.
Yeah.
The numbers are down, and there is a fear. Yeah. And I think with Chief Hedrick here, we just had a case where we had trouble getting fire trucks to work incidents on the bridge, so luckily he went up and they was able to get a pickup truck on loan for us. So these are things that were that we had no clue about,
right?
And we're having to deal with this, and it's not fair to the taxpayer, but
it's a reality.
And it's handed to us, and I want to move this along fast. I mean, if whatever that may be, but I don't want to drag this out because of redevelopment and UEZ. I do believe they'll all on board, but I think we're going to kill a whole month or better, and I'd rather move this forward. So I just soon approve the 30,000. That's my thought.
Go ahead, Mike.
I would agree but, that perception, we obviously have at certain times those problems, but that perception, particularly in parts of Jefferson County, turns into reality. Because if you stay home, then I've got reality sitting in my backyard. The other thing that would be helpful from the Tourism Bureau standpoint, we're going to put $30,000 of our money into this. And, if I could have a commitment to the 30 this evening, and then I can go to Clarksville, just strengthens my position, get it done. To Michael's point, then I can go then we can get rolling. Matter of fact, if I get a positive vote this evening, I'm going to crank our guys up right away to get this campaign put together.
Is this going to be a TV campaign?
I think it'll be a multifaceted media piece. It could be some TV, it could be radio, it could be social media.
So you're going to be using like the business owners downtown, or how are you going to be doing this to represent downtown Jeff?
I'm sorry.
Who are you going to be using in the commercials or in the ads or whatever to represent downtown Jeff?
Haven't really thought that through. I'm not the marketing guy. Okay. I've got 3 really good marketing people sitting in our employ at the Tourism Bureau, and I trust that we got $30,000 in it. We're going to put together a comprehensive campaign for both Clarksville and Jeff and our surrounding areas that is representative of our community and our business people.
How would it affect if we did the 10,000 and we went to, I'm not following that. I don't see why we can't do that.
If we approve 10, then we wait for UEZ. That drops us 2 weeks, and I don't know when redevelopment meets. By the time all these boards approve all this, we're getting close towards the end of December, and what I'm saying is I don't have a problem with going to the other boards, but I would rather go ahead and approve the $30,000 so he can start with his marketing people tomorrow and start getting this out, is all I'm saying. Speed the process up as far as the advertising.
When would you meet with Clarksville? You wouldn't be able to meet with them they don't meet for another 2 weeks. I think they meet on
I have a meeting with those people in 2 weeks. Yes, ma'am.
2 weeks.
Yes, ma'am.
We'll be able to get their 30,000 or whatever.
I've done, so we're going to make the same proposal.
Mm-hmm.
And you said the marketing folks are in-house at the Tourism Bureau?
Yes, sir, they are, so it would be no additional cost of any of that.
So would this be a campaign that we could put together and see before we commit to $30,000? And I know that, Mr. Smith, that we don't want to delay too much, but we do have 2 years of bridge construction to live through.
That was my thought.
Well, I would tell you 2 things. Mr. Rowe, I would tell you 2 things. One, and that's fine, whatever you guys want to do, but in the interest of time, these things can drag out, it'll be 3 or 4 months and nothing will be done. It's $30,000 over the course of a year. I don't need all the $30,000 next month. Okay? It would be better. It would be much better for me to go back to the Tourism Bureau and say, we put our 30 grand up, and these guys are in. I think it's a good deal for the city of Jeffersonville and Clarksville. I really do.
And I don't know. I have very, 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 very limited experience on what media buys look like and what they cost. So what's $90,000 going to look like in a media campaign?
Well, we'll stretch that 90 over. We'll stretch that 90 over a year. We'll get 150 points of media penetration on a weekly basis, I think, for that 90, which is not the greatest, but it's out there working against our issue.
Sure. If we pass this, could you come back after the campaign is established or what your plan is set and kind of inform us before it hits the airwaves and make us aware of what's going to happen?
I can do that if you wish for me. Yeah, I can do that. I could come back at the appropriate time and say this is what we've done. I have great faith in the guys that we have to put together a really nice campaign for 90 grand. And as I say, it's $30,000 of the Tourism Bureau, okay? It's really not our business, but this is a community gesture on the part of the Tourism Bureau. I think it's a good deal.
I need to make you aware of because last council meeting, we approved a claim for $12,500 from the Mayor's Promotion Fund, and that was to run a commercial on WDRB. That was the only market that was to run on. I don't want to do the same, pay double to pay the same message, because it's basically a commercial promoting the city of Jeffersonville that's supposed to be running, I think, to the...
I've seen that a couple of times, I think, and again, I'm not the marketing guy, I think it's very well done. I would tell you that I would have to go talk to my guys, and I don't know who who controls that commercial, but maybe that can be used. I don't know that for a fact.
I just don't want the same message being, because we already approved that claim, I don't want the $30,000 to go towards promoting the same message that's already out there. Add to it or say something different,
If I could, I don't know who I don't know who controls that commercial. I will tell you this though, I thought it was good enough. You couldn't probably throw that out there too often. I do know enough about marketing to know that you can't hardly, you could be redundant as you could be, and the marketing guys would probably tell you, yeah, that's a good thing.
Nathan,
but
you want to move your motion with the 30 and just have a vote on it?
I'll withdraw the 10 and go ahead and make it 30.
Okay. Where we have 47,000 in council special projects? 40. I just make a motion to take $30,000 from council special projects, and before it does hit the air, I think to satisfy Ed and that we would like to somehow either see it or get privy to it, whether you bring it here or come down at your place or go to Tourism Bureau, wherever it's manageable.
Mike, tell me.
You want to look at it before it hits the waves.
Fair enough. Tell me however you want me to do it.
Well,
I'll probably bring it to you when I got a really, whenever you want me to do it.
That way we can kind of.
They're usually something that can be emailed.
Sure, but I'd probably rather bring it. I'd probably rather bring it in person.
That's fine.
And I don't have to come. I can do it any way you want it. I mean, I could come to.
We'll figure that out.
Yeah.
Would it strengthen your position if we made the motion contingent on Clarksville's participation? To try to entice them to get on board with us?
They're going to do it.
My initial reaction from Clarksville is it'll be okay. I think that if I get an okay here tonight, that strengthens my position pretty good. I mean, I think it does. I would hope that Clarksville sees it that way.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Right.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, amendment to the Jeffersonville Fraternal Order of Police Lodge 100 contract. And I emailed everybody a agreement that we reached with the FOP. That would be Lisa. I think you missed the last meeting, you were sick. Ed and Nathan. And do you want me to go over this contract? What we've done is we have agreed to pay raises in 2015 for the FOP of 4% in 2015. 2016, 3%. We're going outside the contract for 2017 at 2.1%. We also have agreed for we have also agreed to a 2% shift differential for second and third shift. This is based on base pay only. This will sunset in 2017, so it won't continue on past the contract. We have also agreed that they would set in on the insurance committee that was created through 2017 with no incentive. And I personally think that's been a really good thing for the city to create. And we did that through the FOP and the fire contracts. So I know I sent this out to everybody, I don't know, a week or so ago for you to look at and digest and proofread. So the FOP has got, along with the fire department, they have gotten a few bonuses along the years, in the past few years, but they have not gotten a raise to their base. And that's one of the reasons they asked to open the contract. We sat down with them over, 3 or 4 meetings and came to terms. So.
And you all remember that the first 2 years of this contract, we gave them incentive to be part of that insurance committee, which they're no longer getting that incentive since they're getting the raise to base.
Right. Now the FOP will have to vote on this.
They'll have to vote on it. There'll have to be a vote tonight. That's
right.
The pleasure of the council. It would be reduced in writing as a form of written amendments to the contract. The negotiation group that met with the FOP group, we actually met last Tuesday, and due to the short week, I've been talking to the attorney to try to get the language that stated what the language would be, just be a very simple one-paragraph amendment. With a short week, the language that I could work out through myself and the FOP. But to move forward procedurally, the terms that Dennis read would be up for motion at the pleasure of the council. To have all vote first, and then the FOP vote, and between now and then, the language will be reduced to forward and approved by all parties.
Want to make that motion? I'll second.
Any other discussion?
I do have, after the vote, I have a question for Scott. Doesn't affect you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right.
Question for Scott, and maybe Amy can chime in, I'm not sure. But our contract specifically states it does not represent the administration, the assistant chiefs and the chiefs. And so we need to establish the salary for the chiefs and the assistant chiefs. And it's my understanding that November 3rd or something, when we submitted our, everything to the state, that we will have to do that in January of 15 before the first pay, I assume. How do we do that? Or do we need to can we pass a resolution or an ordinance, either one, that basically says what the intent is going to be effective January 1st for those that are, that we need to address?
I mean, you can't do a motion of reference to intent now, but technically, since it's a new calendar year, the official action is taking place there. January. It's to correct.
Okay.
You're saying correct the salary.
Yes.
Because pursuant to the FOP, any union contracts, the chiefs are not part of it.
Sure. Yes. Right. It's not part of the negotiations.
Yeah, they're part of the administration.
Okay. Well, just for the council, we need to think through, maybe we'll let Dennis and Scott figure that out and Amy figure out how we need to address that, or the finance committee, but I just wanted to let us know that that's something we have to address right away before the first pay in January.
Is that because in the past, when we give bonuses, everybody gets it, and when we give raises, it doesn't separate between the administration
Right.
and the unions or whatever?
Well, the contract is separated. How it was processed through all the contract.
Council, I think in years past, I'm not sure how, Mike, way back from even when you were the chief, we've always kind of piggybacked the contract, but as Nathan mentioned, officially, we're not a party to the contract. The police or the fire administration, we use the same base that's mentioned in the contract. But I think what Nathan's saying, it would probably be good to clean up and go ahead and do something separately, since officially, we're not a party to the contract, though we've been using it since they've been in existence, unofficial. Is that, Nathan, basically?
Yeah, I know there's a statement, I believe, in the contract that says this is only for the union or the FOP, and it is not for the administration.
Yeah.
And we just need to clean it up.
Yeah, and basically, because the deadlines under the statutory procedures for submitting the budget to the state and the salary ordinance is already passed for 2014 or 2015, it crushes the budget in the administrative
Need to be in
budget.
15.
Because technically, it only happened after January 1st, 2015.
We can make them retroactive.
We've already taken the action on it, so the report is noted, but the official action will be changed.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Ms. Calabro. An ordinance fixing the salaries of elected officials of the city of Jefferson.
Guys more paid? Has anything
No.
changed? Yes. Les and Amy and Vicki and I met, and I guess this is another one of those kind of inherited items for me, which is fine. And if you look at the ordinance that I received from Vicki and Les that I believe we had last year, after the statement where it says, after when it talks about the general fund and sewer department, there was sections talking about longevity and holiday pay and cell phone stipends and take-home stipends and take-home vehicle stipends and retirement. And I'm not real sure how that ever got in that ordinance because no one that's an elected office holder has any of that. So I'm not real sure how that got in there. So we just basically all agreed, the four of us met, agreed that it didn't apply and we removed all of it. So what you have then in your packet before you is what we came up with. It has the mayor's salary, city clerk, city court judge, council president, or council chief. Nothing's changed? Right, we kept everything the same with the exception of, again, I don't know if you have last year's copy, if she put that in there. To make sure.
We just want to make sure the salaries have not changed.
Yeah, they have not changed, no.
Okay.
What's
The ordinance number 6.
Oh, they didn't tell you about that cut you received, that
Motion to
$10,000 pay
approve
cut?
2014 OR 60 on the first
Come
and
on.
second.
Second.
According to this ordinance, city judge is paid questionably $54.33. We'll need to change that decimal point to a comma.
Yeah, that would be good.
Motion to approve with the change on the first and second. Lisa seconded.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Thanks.
Okay.
61.
The healthcare clinic, Kim sent me a copy of the contract or the agreement, and then I forwarded it to everyone for your review. So if we have any questions.
It's Scott get it on.
Scott, did you see the
I sent
contract?
it to Scott.
Yeah,
yes.
and actually, I reviewed it, there's one change that I made that I would like to see. First of all, as we know, we can't approve.
Right.
We recommend, appropriate money and recommend the approval by the appropriate.
To the Board of Public Works.
But on page 5, paragraph 19, miscellaneous procedure for miscellaneous section, 1, we start on the 4th line, the sentence that this agreement shall be governed by the laws of the state of Kentucky.
Oh.
I had changed that to these laws shall be governed by, or the agreement shall be governed by the laws of the state of Indiana. And I think that's, a lot of companies do that, not only the 8 Alternative Health Solutions LLC, Kentucky companies that basically their contracts put in those methodologies. Obviously, the services will be provided here. I recommend we always have law benefits us. So I don't think they should have a problem with that. So I already made that change. But all the other legal provisions were
Make a motion that we recommend the contract with the change to the Board of Public Works.
Second.
Any other discussion? And I have a little. Hey, Kim, on the very last page, it says the clinic open hours are from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. Now, he did say we could change it.
We will make that decision collectively.
So that is something that may be changed.
You mean you want to add a Saturday, half-day Saturday? Or?
No, we may go from 9 to 5:30 or...
Oh,
For
okay.
people to get off work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that something should be left a little more?
Well, I don't know, I think we ought to make a notation in our, and I have one other thing, maybe a couple other things. The company, which is the city, shall have no role whatsoever in the organization, operation, management of the administration of the clinic. Wait until these two are done talking. Did you hear what I...
No.
Do you mind? The company, being the city, in the first page of the agreement, number 1, says the company shall have no role whatsoever in the organization, operation, or management or administration of the clinic, which in our discussions, he had said that...
It's a little contradictory, isn't it?
Yeah. So, I think the overall contract, or the agreement is good. The only other thing that I noticed in is page 2, number 5. The number of employees working at the company, which is the city, facilities at 500 Quartermaster Court. And then it says 47130 or otherwise in close proximity to the clinic site. So, Scott, you might look at that and see if you're okay with that paragraph.
I don't understand what that exactly
means.
Yeah, I don't
I think from what I recall from our meeting, I think he was referencing the fact that this is basically our business site. This is the business address, just typically like with our federal ID number and things like that. This is actually City
It very
Hall,
well might be.
as
I just-
opposed to Renfro Way or one of the fire stations or the police station.
Okay. Well, along with Scott's change on Kentucky, I think we ought to clarify, and I think we can go ahead and okay this with these exceptions. Page 1, number 1, the company shall have no role whatsoever in the organization, operation, or management of this administration or clinic, and the other one is the time of day. Those are the only two.
So do we need to amend and add those to the...
Well, it's recommending, we're not approving.
Okay.
Right.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Recommend that with the subject to the changes that have been mentioned.
Then Kim, are you planning on going to Board of Public Works, or are you going to run it through your office, or how are we going to?
I wasn't real sure. I was going to try to get with you and Les and the mayor and find out, because, I mean, the mayor and I have been, we talked about this a year ago, and it's, finally it's kind of to fruition, so I don't know if we all need to sit down and do that, or if we want a conference call with Jason to clarify these things, and
Well, we could do that
maybe,
in the meantime.
I don't know if Scott wants to be a part of that, or if we need Les, or just to,
I think we can
Yeah.
handle that part of it.
We just have to make sure, finally,
right. So if you want to just get with me tomorrow, we can try to figure that out.
That's fine. All right, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Motion.
To recommend the changes.
Yes, and
Who
a
seconded
second.
it? I didn't hear you. Connie.
Connie did. Somebody, pick one of us.
Amy Deering,
Because she's louder.
an ordinance transferring funds within the same department.
This ordinance represents some requests that came in from the Safety Department, Fire, and IT, where they had some needs within a different series than where the budget was, so the transfer requests before you are just those changes.
Motion to approve 2014 OR 61 on the first and second reading.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed?
Thank you.
All right. City Council Attorney Report, Mr. Lewis. Councilman, we'll go to department heads. Did any department heads just sign up to speak? No, but we have one coming forward.
I was just wanting to bring you guys up to speed. We do have a upcoming retirement February 18th. And if we did want to start someone ahead of time to replace that person, I think it would require an adjustment in the salary ordinance where it's 77. So, or we can, in the past, we've waited till he got off the books, which will be February before we started the process for someone else. I know that was, you and I discussed that before, but if you did want to do that differently, it would require a change in the salary ordinance, from what I understand from Les, to move that number to 78 for a period of time until the one person fell off in February.
Eric, I don't mean to be argumentative, but when we brought this up before, you argued against that, which I said it's better to bring them on and have them ready to go to save an OT.
Because there had to be a change in the salary ordinance, and the council wouldn't make a change because we made the change one year for a guy going to Afghanistan, and he didn't go, and
So we had the extra person.
so we had the extra person, and the council was not favorable of that move, and theoretically, he signed up to retire,
It
but
wasn't the council, it had something to do with the state, because you were saying something had to go through PERF. That was.
yeah, they have to get in perf to be put online, to be hired.
Council was never asked to change the salary ordinance on that, because I'm sure that if we thought we saved overtime, we would have voted on that.
And we're
It had
okay.
to do with PERF.
Well, I'm just letting the council know, in order to do that perf work in advance, it would require adjustment in the salary ordinance from what Les had told me.
The chief and I had talked about this a little bit last week, and the problem is we have somebody who's going to retire in February, but they've got their time built up, and that person's already basically gone.
He's got a couple days left, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he'll work through next week, and then he won't be back, and we can't hire somebody until February, until he's off the books. So I wondered, we talked a little bit about if there's a possibility to add some sort of status, some sort of position into the salary ordinance that was like a temporary offline status firefighter or something to move that person to the side so we could go ahead and hire someone and train them to take that spot. And I don't know what the answer to that is, but
Didn't we basically do that for, we had that with the police dispatchers? I think, Kim, did we not do that? We added a part-time, we added something into the salary ordinance to allow when we had to bring in extra, is there some way we can add a line, or add something in the salary ordinance to do what we're discussing?
We can't
do
set-
anything until January.
Well, I know, I'm just
Now, right?
asking her if we
Right.
can bring him in early or not.
I'd say,
Kind of like what Eric said, it's the process of, we're depending on what PERF does and how quickly they move with their emergency.
Yeah,
Sometimes that's a month, sometimes it's 3 months.
something to think about.
Yeah.
We can't do anything about it until
Right,
January.
and the reason I bring it up tonight is if we could do something creative with a salary ordinance that would allow us to bring someone in at a, I don't know what you would call it, a temporary status pending, or, until that guy, we could at least maybe get that person started in that process to where there's not that 2-month window.
How about that was the problem of getting perf to recognize them?
Is that what it was?
As a matter of fact, we asked
Is-
them to hire early last time.
And saving overtime and all that.
The perf has to accept them before we offer them the job. That's correct. But we have to pay them to go through that process. Right, Kim? They get paid to go through the process of perf. And then we offer them the position upon their acceptance is when they start.
Additional offer, I mean, by the time you've vetted them to where they're at now, you're hopeful that they're going to pass the...
Yeah. Yeah.
They won't even make an appointment unless they are an employee, my understanding. You can't even call up to schedule an appointment unless they're an employee of the city.
Okay.
Well, see, we tried though with the fire last time to get them to hire, and we were told that we could not because of time.
Well, we can't hire over the salary ordinance, is that correct?
That's correct.
Is that correct, Matt?
I think this is exactly
So
what we were
if-
trying to do the last.
Why can't
But the
we create-
salary ordinance has to be changed, and I can't do that.
With salary ordinance, why can't we create a position like firefighter to be retared, and just whoever announces their retirement,
We
put
move
them in
them to
that
that
slot,
spot.
and everyone else moves.
That's what I was kind of getting at.
Rather than
Yeah.
adding a new spot
Trying to
for
ask
the
him
new
if we could
person,
do
just
that.
Leave
create
it
a
open.
open position where we move firefighters into, so that we could,
That would be good.
to create the spot to be hired.
Can you get that, work on that?
Theoretically,
Well, that would be.
he could decide not to retire is the real bad thing about that. I don't think that's going to happen. But theoretically,
And then
he
the
could
opposite would
leave,
happen. The lowest person on seniority, go up.
but I asked that question, and he's not locked into that. He's taken the drop program, but he could opt out of it.
Well, if that happens, if
Either
that
way.
happens,
all
we
this
are
time.
spending-
I'm sure.
I don't want to be home all this time.
Right, I think we
Go
need
back
to
to work.
So-
The other way,
I'll get with
then they really commit.
Councilman Smith and Owen, maybe
Why don't you check with
Pick that out.
other departments down the state, maybe New Albany, and pick their brain? I mean, surely, we're not reinventing. There has to be somebody that has had this issue and has addressed it.
Yeah, well, we've done it even before where you guys changed the salary ordinance. I think our salary ordinance at one point was 79 when we hired some people. Then it went back to 77. That's when the Afghanistan thing happened, or with that guy, and you all were sour to that deal, and I understand why, because it didn't get done, but,
I think what everybody's saying is, we're in agreement.
right,
We want to bring them on to cut down on the overtime. We just,
right, see how to do
if
it.
you would do what Mike said, figure out how to do it, or, figure out what other
Right.
counties, cities are doing.
I will see how we can make that happen.
Hey, Chief, how many firefighters do we have?
77.
And does that include administration or doesn't include administration?
Yes, that's complete firefighters. We have one that's injured, that's off duty, and one that's
Retired coming on.
getting ready to retire.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Good deal. No other department heads, and there was no more public comment. We'll go to council comment. Councilman Smith. Councilman Ed
Yeah,
Zestawat.
two quick things, just going back to the FOP contract. I mean, it's a really tough thing to do, and whoever hasn't not yet put their time on the negotiation committee needs to step up and check that out.
Sorry, I've got one more council meeting.
But I do want to say that it's difficult, it's challenging, but that both sides worked in good faith and did the best we could for the firefighters and for the city of Jeffersonville. So I'm happy with the results, and hopefully everybody else will be as well. The other thing is, I did receive a communication from the Tourism Bureau where I requested that tourism consider giving some money towards the Worley Athletic Complex for lights to enhance tourism opportunities in Jeffersonville. And that communication is an application to go ahead and fill out, and I'm going to go ahead and fill that out. It will require for us to do a presentation, or some of us do a presentation at the Tourism Board, as well as set up a bond mechanism for it to happen. So hopefully we can get that approved and maybe help us
Now, Ed,
build out the complex.
would we bond that as a totally independent bond?
Yeah,
or-
there'd have to be an independent bond, and they would commit to pay for it. But the bond would be in our name, but their promissory note, I guess, or promise to pay us.
I wonder if that comes off our bonding ability.
I don't know.
Sure.
If it's gonna be in our name.
Yeah.
It will.
How much is it for? What are you
The,
asking
the,
for?
the amount hasn't been determined. What I asked for was $300,000, which would be enough to cover 2 fields. Basically $150,000 to do 2 fields.
Okay. Councilman Payne?
No comment.
Councilman Sellers?
I just want to thank the negotiating team. I know that's a lot of work and
Man,
heavy
we're not doing it
discussions and hours and time, and both on the police. And I want to thank the police too, because I know they've been patient
They
for
have.
the past 3 years with all the tax things we've had to deal with and not knowing whether or not we're going to have money. And so they've been patient just with the bonuses that they've got, and I want to thank them as well. So.
Vice President? Gill?
Well, I wanted to
just to add to what Connie was saying, that's one thing that in the conversations that I have, we have a member of the FOP in the back of the room. Thank you, Toby. They kept in very good contact with it, and they never come to that table without saying, we want to work with the city. And they reiterated it at every time, so appreciate that. And also wanted to clarify something when, of course, most people cleared the room, but when Pierce was up here talking, he was bringing up the fact about the deputy clerk's position and not clocking out. And I did get an email, or a text message verifying that their pay was stocked during that time and that HR did handle everything. And Kim, you're in the room, is that correct?
That's my understanding.
So I do not want the public to think that the city clerk's office, which is technically that department head, wasn't doing what they were supposed to be doing. So I just wanted to put that fact out there.
Councilman Nolan?
I'm okay.
Councilman Samuel?
Just to remind us that the negotiations aren't over. We now have the fire to work with. Just to remind you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, they finally had a law firm, different from last time, sent me an email for dates, the negotiation committee for dates for fire.
That same committee that's done
That's all I
such a
got.
wonderful job
Okay.
so far.
Do what? Scott, have you heard anything on White Reach? I thought their date was November 27th.
I've not heard anything. I think it was November 28th.
28th?
That's what Les had told me at the last meeting, that was
Yeah.
the deadline for them to submit all of their financials, bonding and so forth to
Yeah.
complete the deal. I've not heard anything, whether they may apply financial requirements or not.
Okay.
It was November 28th.
I mean, I think we would have heard, there would have been hoopla about that.
I'll be happy to call Les tomorrow morning.
If you could,
Ask him if they apply or not.
you might ask him and respond to us over email or something, let us know.
Could ask. Or Elizabeth could ask.
Or Elizabeth.
They did not close on the deal.
There was no press release?
There's a hearing on Wednesday regarding the lawsuit. But from my understanding, I talked to somebody today and they said that they have intentions to try to get the deadline extended again, the redevelopment petition. They have to. Okay, yeah. I was thinking concerning the other lawsuits that they have.
Okay.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you very much. All right, motion to adjourn.